Guys, I couldn't be prouder of the 4 months we've spent developing this sales training for builders and remodelers. Honestly, it is absolutely killer. We've scoured the internet looking for really good sales training for builders and remodelers specifically. So I want to share with you some really key takeaways and some points and some modules, right? This contains 8 modules over a couple of days sales training. I want to get into module 1 here for you just quickly, right? The fact is, we have to know who you are. We have to know who we are in this process. Who are we currently today? How are we showing up? What are we doing in our business? What is our niche? What's our model? There's so much that'll come out of the fact of doing this alone, right? Module 1 is all about getting the foundation before we get into the actual sales training, because we don't have the foundation, right? As we know, can't build a house on a foundation of sand, right? So who you are is critical. But here's the thing, who you are is not necessarily who you want to be, right? So it all comes down to here we are today currently. Where are we going? Who we want to become? That's more important than who we are at the moment. So at the fact, who we are is a starting point, right? And who we are, really we need to know, who are we becoming? That is more important, because who we are becoming says that's going to dictate our avatar. Because our current avatar isn't necessarily going to get us to where we want to go. Our current avatar may not be the current avatar for who we're becoming. This was such a critical module. We go a couple hours deep into this. The game-changing outcome that we got over a couple of days sales training, this alone will change everything for you. You get yourself set up for really where you want to go, who you need to be working towards. And now you build your entire sales process system around that new avatar and your new model, your niche, where you're going. Building trust is how we close deals. If we don't build trust, we don't build confidence in the buyer, we're not closing more deals. As builders, remodelers, look, we're trying to pull out hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars out of somebody's pocket to give you a check, and you've met them only a few times, right? Think about the airline. United Airlines spends millions of dollars on building a brand and building trust, right? Building confidence in them to sell a $500 airline ticket. We're trying to close a $500,000 million project, $2-3 million project. Building trust is such a number one element. Here's the thing, if we go back to module 1, we know who our avatar is, we know who we're becoming. Now we need to build trust in exactly that. The entire training that we have to share with you allows you to build all of the modules into trust. It ends up to be trust. That's the entire sales system. You haven't got our sales system book? Make sure you grab that on Amazon, the Elite Builder Sales System. It's the entire process of building trust. Now, in module 2 of our sales training, we go through building trust. And then here's the thing. Once we have trust and we know how we're going to do that with the right avatar from module 1, we then get into our elevator pitch. Once we get our elevator pitch nailed down, I mean nailed down, there's a number of steps and processes to get that dialed in. Far too many of us are out there. We're meeting our avatar. We know who we're meeting. We run into them, but we don't have our elevator pitch down. We miss opportunities that are all around us. Number 2 is about building trust and building that elevator pitch so you never miss another opportunity that's staring you in the face. Each of our modules are layering in each other, right? So one builds on the other. We can't really jump into module 3 without getting through and making sure that we've got module 1 and 2 dialed in. So let's get into module 3. There's an understanding that there's 4 personality styles, and you have one of those styles. You have a dominant and you have a secondary. I know myself, I'm a driver expressive. Very clear who I am. I know that. So I know myself. You have to know you if you're ever going to sell to a client in module 4. Module 3 and 4 really tie in together. 1, you need to know you, and in order to sell to a client and understand who that client is and what their personality style is, you need to know you first. And here's the thing, if I'm a driver expressive, I need to understand who my client is, because if I'm talking to an expressive amiable or an analytical driver, I need different styles of how I approach them. It's not one size fits all. Your sales process needs to deliver messages that's clear and concise. Look, how many times have you lost deals, clients you didn't work with, you didn't build rapport with, that friction, something was off, right? Well, I tell you what it likely is. It's because your styles were off. You weren't able to understand and pick up the cues, the behavioral cues, the verbal cues, the nonverbal cues that will help you in future. So part of our modules is going through and making sure that we understand this so we can close more deals by knowing who we're talking to, knowing who we are, knowing how we have to meet them at where they're at. right? People love people that are similar to them, right? So how are we showing up? And it all comes back into here. If I understand my avatar, and one, if I know my pitch and I know my building of trust, I can now start building in my personality styles and start working my sales system, my process to deliver a better client experience down here and close more deals. Hey, in Module 5, we start dealing with the pain points of the client. They have problems. We're trying to diagnose that problem, and we're doing it from the correlation of the perspective of the doctor. So we correlate this idea of the doctor, you being the doctor in the relationship here. So what is the doctor? The doctor is the expert. When you walk into the doctor's office, what does this look like, right? There's all kinds of busy activity going on. It's a very professional environment. Look, we're just moving through the process when we hit the doctor's office. We're coming in with some ailment that we want to get looked after, right? So we're coming in, the doctor has their process. They move you through, they get you into the waiting room, and then they come out and they bring you into another room. And then a nurse rolls in and they start diagnosing your ailments, right? Asking you a series of questions. That's what we need to be doing as a builder. We need to act as the doctor. And here's the thing that's really, really cool when you put this in perspective in Module 5, when you understand pain points, how to become the doctor in the relationship of the builder remodeler. Think of this, 95% of the time, we're just listening to the doctor. They can solve our problem, fix our ailment, and we're going to pay them. We're going to pay them for that service, and we just move through. The doctor is not thinking that you're not going to take the prescription. The doctor is not thinking that you're not going to hear them, listen to them, or move them through this process. It's simply just a matter of fact. You show up, you deliver the diagnosis, and then you move them through. You say, okay, the next step in the process, call to action. The next call to action is x-rays. Let's move you to the x-ray room. You go over there, you pay for that. You're right or wrong. You're not questioning anything. If you've done your job properly, if you understand the styles of the people that we're talking to in modules 3 and 4, by the time you hit 5 and you're the professional that shows up like the doctor that's simply there to be the solving of their problem, dealing with their pain points, this thing is a done deal. It is a very simple process. There's a whole lot more to the depth of this. But I'm telling you, Module 5 is a game changer when you do it properly. That's the way we start closing more deals at higher price points because they trust you. Hey guys, if there's something we do well, I believe as builders remodelers, it's number 6. It's the assumptive phrasing, the assumptive close, right? We should be moving people through with the intention in the process that we already assume they're moving. If we go back to the doctor's not assuming that they're not moving forward. They're not going to get the x-ray. If we need to get an x-ray, we're assuming that you're going to get the x-ray, so we just move them into the next series of the process, right? So if we don't have a sales system, a sales process dialed in, if we don't have calls to actions built into our sales system, then we cannot have an assumptive movement, assumptive close, and assumptive phrasing built in. Assumptive phrasing essentially is saying, when we work with you, when we get started, imagine the life once we build this out for you. We're using assumptive phrasing to move them through the process, just like your doctor's doing. They're not wondering if you're going to get the x-ray or not. And then we get into, in Module 6, we get into the proposal itself. Now, we don't talk about just a proposal going over the number. We talk about the presentation, the slide deck we all need in our business to move through. Again, this is a very intentional, if you look back on the entire 8 modules here, this is an intentional process going far deeper into our sales system than we ever thought of before. When we go through this with builders and modelers over a 2-day workshop, we get an understanding that the proposal stage, again, from a doctor perspective, is just assuming that they're now moving forward. If we've done everything right in our sales process, the proposal stage is just setting them up with an assumption that they're moving forward. It's not about the dollars anymore. We are just the next stage in the process, right? So the proposal is so important, but it's not just the numbers, it's the presentation and how we deliver it that is the key. That's what the depth of the sales training is going to give us, is a whole new level of how we get to the stage and how we move a hell of a lot more people through at a higher price point. This entire sales training is in order to get you at a higher price point. If you don't get to a higher price point, we don't build and scale our business. We don't build teams. We aren't able to afford the things we need to do to actually scale, right? So number 6 is so critically important. Don't get to the proposal, share the number and nothing else without going through that whole presentation and slide deck. Game changer, guys, number 6. All right, number 7, we're getting to number 7. This is the fun part for me, right? When we map out our entire sales system, we take everything that we've learned, we map out our sales system so that we can be a hell of a lot more precise about every action we take from the time we meet a new client to the time we close the deal and onboard them into our operations, right? So the sales system, it is called a map for a reason, because there's multiple stages in that sales system that most of us are forgetting or not using or have just never seen before. Because the Elite Builder sales system from the 4-level coach side of things, it should be trademarked, because at the end of the day, it is so unique and so different. No builders or modelers are doing this stuff. This is why you can separate yourself from your competition, because the sales system itself is what sells you, right? It's what builds trust up here. It creates that elevator pitch. It understands, it takes into account all of these 4 personality styles, right? It's built in the assumptive closing. It's doing it from the doctor's perspective that is just moving people through the system, right? They expect you that you're taking the x-rays just like in our sales system, right? So this is about your process. It's your process built from what? Understanding your avatar, who you are becoming, not where you are, but who you are becoming, and then build that into your process. And your process is now teachable, trainable. We can scale that. We can add more people. What was very clear over 2-day sales training, anytime this happens, is that people will leave here with the understanding that, hey, I don't need to have to sell for the rest of my life if I do this piece properly, right? So the sales training is going to set you up not just to go out and sell and learn how to sell better and negotiating and close deals. It's going to create a process to be able to do that systematically so that you close more deals and then teach and train it, guys. All right, number 8. We're getting into number 8, the closing module here, right? It's actually called In Closing for a reason. Now, when we get to this point, we're down to that proposal stage, or any time throughout the process, we might run into some common objections, right? So we damn well better know what those objections are. Look, if I asked you, straight right now, give me 2, 3 of your common objections, I hope you can tell me. You've done this long enough, you've ran into them enough, but here's the thing. Do we really know how we are handling those objections? So let's get intentional. How many times have I said intentional through this video, right? This is incredibly important. We need to know how to handle these common objectives or objections, right? So objections are going to be there. I'll tell you one thing though. If you do this right? If you get this sales system right in number 7 and you put them through the process and you do it relentlessly with intention, there should be no objections at the end, because it's a formality. You know why? Because we go back to the doctor. It's a formality. The doctor situation, you versus the doctor, is setting yourself up to just take the x-ray next, right? So really, there should be no common objections at that point. If there is throughout the process, before we get to the proposal stage, we need to know how to handle those. So in number 8, we go through those lists of objections and then lists of handling those objections. When you get that dialed in and you actually start practicing that, you leveraging that, you become so good at it that it just rolls off of you. It's part of your DNA. Do you know how much better you are at closing deals? You know how much better you are at taking that price point up? How many times you get to, hey, price is the objection, right? That's often the highest or the most common objection is price. Well, you know what? Again, we should be able to overcome that objection if we've done our homework properly. We know who we're dealing with here. We've built enough trust. This is the whole point of this all being tied together. So number 8 wraps it all up, puts us into conclusion. And look, guys, when you get this right and everything else, guys, this is what our 4-level coach community uses. This is why they're growing and scaling their businesses at a faster rate than anyone else up there. It's because they're doing the right things right and they're consistent about it. They're intentional about it. This stuff flows off of them. Guys, you got to get here too.